Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee with the Critters, where we live stream every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Um, we're going to have a Q&A um, on answering your animal behavior training and enrichment questions. So I wanted to mention for those that may be new, my name is Laura Joseph, professional animal trainer and owner of the Animal Behavior Center. And Coffee with the Critters is a weekly conversation for people who are fascinated by how animals think, how they learn, and how they behave. And for the past 20 years, I've worked with numerous different species of animals and working through the science of behavior known as applied behavior analysis. And each week we explore the science of animal behavior training and enrichment through the lens of applied behavior analysis, because when we know better, we do better. This past week, I've been doing a lot of live streaming. For those of you, let's see, we had a live stream Thursday night, was pretty in depth. Just had another one last night on understanding behavior, sharing charts showing if you don't understand why a behavior issue is happening. We went through a checklist on how to find out what the reinforcer is behind the undesired behavior so we can start putting a behavior modification plan in place. And all of that information, if you want to know more about the work that we do, you can find on our website at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. And you can always email me at Laura, Lara, at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. So if you have questions, if you want to get involved, if you want to start making changes, and you want to work with me in our very engaging online learning communities, email me. I don't know why you're waiting. I really don't. We're making a lot of progress each and every day. We have a lot of exciting things happening. And this past week, I have been training, really getting back to training. And it makes me very happy. I love training because it is the best form of communication I have found with any animal, which is why I do what I do. And I want to see animals just thriving in their environment. And so I've been training a lot this past week. And this next week, I have some on site training that is taking me out of town all week. But I will be still working in the memberships online every night. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I do believe, oh, yep, just my contact information. If you want to get in touch with me, email me. Anybody that emails me knows that I respond pretty quickly. I'm consistently at my computer or taking my phone with me while I'm training, so I see all the comments coming in. So let's go ahead and get started with the questions. If you have a question and you're on here, you may want to post it quickly, because I've had a couple of questions that came in overnight that people wanted me to address. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in with those questions. Can't guarantee I'll get through all of them, but the first question is, let's see. I'm providing enrichment, but my animal becomes more intense and reactive instead of engaged. I want to know what might be happening and what I might be seeing. So, great question. And we just talked about overstimulation, I don't know, sometime maybe last month. So, if you're seeing behaviors of your animal becoming more intense, I'm going to ask you, what specifically does that look like? If it's freezing, um, When you go to reach for the enrichment and your animal freezes, those are behaviors that can be observable and measurable. Your animal might be resource guarding, meaning protecting. And I haven't met an animal that doesn't resource guard yet. There's a series of steps you can take to approach this. And where I start, when I see a particular behavior concern or potential behavior concern, what I'm looking for is at what specific point, what are the antecedents, anything that leads up to that before you get to that point. So those antecedents to a behavior concern are cues to us that maybe this is where we want to redirect. What is your replacement behavior? We were just talking about this last night. When you want to change a behavior, you need to ask yourself, what do you want to see instead? And then after you have um, after you have figured out what the reinforcer is for the undesired behavior, use that reinforcer for an alternate behavior. So in this particular instance, I mean, there's numerous different ways you could approach this. I know I would start jotting and documenting down that it's with this particular piece of enrichment that the animal starts showing these behavior concerns. So maybe find another behavior that in which it doesn't do it. And all those antecedents, like I said, are cues. So those are your cues to stop right there and redirect before the behavior concern or the undesired behavior becomes more intense. Let's see, Ezra, who just joined our online membership this week. Let me see what your question was. We have an issue with, I can't see the whole screen. We have an issue with the Conyers resource guarding. How would we approach correcting this? Um, I don't know if you attended the live stream last night, Ezra. I think that's Melissa. But watch that live stream I posted last night in the memberships. There were 2 charts on it, getting ready to add a third one. I will upload those charts into your memberships today. But you want to identify the reinforcer behind the undesired behavior. And that first chart I posted for you is going to help you identify that. And then what's the behavior you want to see instead? I'm going to ask you, what are they resource guarding? Is it an object? Is it an area? Are you unknowingly cueing this behavior to happen? What do you want to replace it with? And a lot of times when I'm working with resource guarding, what I will do is find if it's an area they're resource guarding, let's say it's an object they're resource guarding, you know this object puts them into um, resource guarding that particular object. So I will start working with objects of lesser value and start teaching, shaping, and training what you want it to do instead. And then slowly introduce objects of more value. That is shaping, differential reinforcement. And Melissa, we can go into more depth in that. You need to be posting that in the Parrot Project. And feel free to go ahead and post your questions in the Parrot Project. And I usually sit at my computer and answer them every morning and every evening. Good morning, everybody. Food and water bowl. That's interesting. Okay. All right. We're going to have to dig in deeper on that one, Melissa. So feel free to go ahead and post that in the Parrot Project. And I'm going to ask you, this is where I get specific, is do they I'm going to ask you what resource guarding looks like, and you don't have to answer it now. What's the behavior look like? Define it. What does it look like? Flat feathers, tight feathers, looking at each other, beak open at each other. Is the water dish full? Does the behavior happen when the water dish is empty? Is the food dish full? What is it full of? Is it just the area? Or is it the dish? Or is it the contents of the dish? Because those are all the specific details what I'm going to need to know, and I'm going to ask you so we know where to begin our shaping plan. But those are great observations. Melissa, go look at the charts I posted last night. All right. And start with the first one. And let's cover it a little more in detail. All right. Anybody else have a question? If not, I'm going to move on to the second question that came in through our memberships. Good morning, Ray. Been thinking about you, wondering what's going on with you. All right. Second question. Well, let's move on to Pat's. My bird, here's your bird chirping. She's chirping back. She is very happy right now. She is an only bird. I play sounds to her. Yep, that's Noodle. Noodle is right outside my office staring at me, waiting for me to end this live stream. I almost involved him in this live stream this morning, but pay attention because you're going to start seeing him because as of yesterday, we started working on my training studio. So when I get back in town from training out of town this weekend, we're going to start putting the training studio into place. And I couldn't be more excited. Okay, let's go on to another question. Okay, this is a good one. I've been trying to reduce a potential behavior concern, but it keeps coming back. Why is this happening? And what role does this play? Okay, this is a good one. So, if you have a particular behavior concern that you are trying to change, but you keep seeing the behavior concern is being reinforced. It's unknowingly being reinforced because we know that if a behavior maintains or increases, that can be desired behaviors, that can be undesired behaviors. If that behavior is maintaining, it's being reinforced. So we have to identify what the reinforcer is behind the behavior. All behavior happens for a reason. There is no one behavior an animal or ourselves gives that doesn't serve a purpose. It serves a purpose for the animal or it wouldn't be happening. So it means if you're trying to change it, we need to identify what the reinforcer is behind why the behavior issue is continuing. Because when we identify what that behavior is, then we can deliver. If we can identify the reinforcer behind that behavior, that means we understand what is causing the behavior to continue, and we can deliver that reinforcer for an alternate behavior that is one that's more suitable for the best interests of the animal, the best interest of our lives with them, and working with them. So not only do I want animals to be happy, I need to be happy too. This is teamwork. It is me and the animals. We both need to be happy. If we're both not happy, if we're both not happy, something's missing. And I won't keep an animal with me just because I want to. If the animal's not happy with me, I will find a place that the animal will be happier. Very rarely does that happen, but it does. And I've always said to people, um, if any of my animals can find a place where they would thrive more than with me, I will let them go. I will let them go where they want to be. Good luck. Because my main competitor in life is Mother Nature. I'll never beat her, but I raise my bar extremely high to keep striving to reach that. So Mother Nature is my competition. All right. Let's move on. We had about 6 questions come in overnight. Let me look through them and see which one. Maybe we'll end with this one. Okay, we just covered that last week in reinforcing calm versus suppressing behavior. So I don't want to dive deep into that again since we just covered it. But I will say this before I move on to the next question. When we are suppressing behavior, if it is a behavior concern and we're trying to keep it at bay, that's a very dangerous situation. I will find the reinforcer behind that behavior and I will try to change an alternate behavior because I don't want to just keep a potential behavior concern at bay, because what is likely to happen is it's going to rear its head and it's going to come out full force, and it could be putting you, others, and the animal in a very dangerous situation. So I never want to suppress a behavior. I want to understand it, identify the reinforcer for why it is happening, and and teach an alternate behavior because it will be safer for the animal and everybody else in the environment. So let's go. Let's see. That question, you're going to see a series of posts. In my social media, you're going to start seeing a series of posts that happen every week, and they're going to be learning moments. So I'm going to address that one on measuring behavior. Pay attention to my social media. Let's take this one. Okay. Sometimes my animal responds pretty quickly to what I'm asking, and other times they completely disengage. How do I evaluate what is happening? So this, without more information, I'm going to say this is probably something to do with motivation. A lot of times I'll tell people, when you are, before you even start working with an animal, you need to identify highly valued reinforcers. And then you take those reinforcers and you virtually stick them in your pocket. And then you deliver them for future behaviors you want to see maintain or increase. So I'm going to say, without knowing more information, if your animal is acting really eager and engaged at some points and not interested at other times, your environment's changing. The environment is, like I just said the other night in a live stream, it is the sun coming in this window. It is the temperature of this room. Those all affect environment. The bird chirping in the background, that is part of my environment. My scrolling screen, your comments, that is part of my immediate environment. And my reinforcers are going to change from the moment I sit down and end this live stream to the moment I stand up. The reinforcers behind my behavior are going to change. Right now, your comments are the reinforcer behind me sitting here at the screen. Debbie says, I have that issue with my dogs. It's something at the time that's more interesting than me. Yes, and it's also motivation. We need to identify reinforcers and deliver them for behaviors we want to see maintain or increase. A lot of times, when the more challenging the behavior, the higher valued reinforcers I will use, and I will use reinforcers that I withhold and only use for particular more challenging behaviors. I will also do that with more challenging environments. And so again, you're going to want to shape behavior. So if we're talking about a dog and you're the motivation your dog has and gives in responding to you in an environment that it's familiar with is going to change in an environment that's more overstimulating, such as a park. So I'm probably going to, in the beginning stages of my teaching and training, I'm going to use different reinforcers for each location. But I think what you're dealing with by what you said is motivation. And there are different ways to get motivation, create motivation, keep motivation. And people who say that their animals aren't motivated, that is not true. Especially people who say that their animals aren't food motivated. Every animal that is alive is food motivated. So I think we're talking about motivation, and maybe we have an upcoming live stream on motivation. Once my training studio is done, we're going to have future episodes of Coffee with the Critters showing training. And I know I just talked to somebody last week that had requested seeing me train Snow, my deaf and blind dog, more. And training Snow can be very fascinating. She's my deaf and blind border collie. This is the way she was born, because I can't say, Snow, come here, because she can't hear me. I can't look at her and tell her, come here, because she has no eyes. So I communicate with her through the environment, through training, through smells. And she's going to be involved in my training studio. And Snow is getting ready to turn 10 years old. So let me see what Lisa says. Caesar will give me a hard time stepping up. Then he steps back and laughs. I think he's shaping my behavior rather nicely. Yep. Yeah. It sounds like he's training you very well. So you're going to want to evaluate your reinforcers, which are much more than food. And are they of value? Are they of value at that moment? And if an animal is not responding to the reinforcer you're trying to deliver, it's not a reinforcer in the moment. So, like I said, I'll be out of town working this week. I'll still be working within the memberships, but I'm here to tell you, if you are serious about understanding behavior, don't wait for the next Coffee with the Critters. Get in our memberships and start learning now. Very engaging, interactive memberships, which includes Q&As. I'm answering questions daily. I review training video. I have podcasts that are private to the memberships that are very educational. And until then, start analyzing what you're seeing right now. Define the behavior, identify what's maintaining it. That is the work, whatever the work may be. So if you want to know more about the work that I do, take a look at our website, theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. You can also find Coffee with the Critters on your podcasts. Wherever you listen to your podcast, we're there as well. And with that, I want to say thank you, and I will see you next Sunday on Coffee with the Critters. But pay attention to my social media because it's going to look like post. But what I'm really trying to do is engage your thinking, get you thinking about what you're doing and what you're seeing and what you're unknowingly training. And with that, I want to say thank you and have a great week, everybody.